You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Hey everybody, Dave here. I want to talk about our sponsor, LegalZoom. You know, I started my first business back in the early 90s, and what I would have done to have been able to have the services of an organization like LegalZoom back then. Just getting all of those business ducks in a row, all of that technical stuff, the legal stuff, the registrations of the business, the taxes, all of those things that you need to go through when you're starting a business, the hard stuff, the stuff that sucks up your time when you just want to get that business launched and out there. Well, LegalZoom has everything you need to launch, run, and protect your business all in one place. And they save you from wasting hours making sense of all that legal stuff. Launch, run, and protect your business to make it official today at LegalZoom.com. You can use promo code CYBER10 to get 10% off any LegalZoom business information product, excluding subscriptions and renewals. That expires at the end of this year. Get everything you need from setup to success at LegalZoom.com and use promo code CYBER10. That's LegalZoom.com and promo code CYBER10. LegalZoom provides access to independent attorneys and self-service tools. LegalZoom is not a law firm and does not provide legal advice except where authorized through its subsidiary law firm, LZ Legal Services, LLC. The feds confirm Chinese penetration of U.S. telecom wiretap systems, and Neuberger outlines top cybersecurity challenges facing the upcoming Trump administration. Former Air National Guardsman Jack Teixeira gets a 15-year prison sentence for leaking classified U.S. military documents. A Chinese national faces up to 20 years in prison after pleading guilty to money laundering for pig butchering scams. Researchers say a popular pregnancy app has serious unaddressed security vulnerabilities. NIST misses its deadline for clearing the NVD backlog. A B2B demand generation company confirms a leak affecting 122 million people. HHS warns healthcare organizations to be on the lookout for Godzilla. Moody's designates the industries at highest risk of cyber attack. Our guest is Sarah Hutchins, partner at Parker Poe, discussing the growing number of state data privacy laws. And an AI grandma keeps scammers on the line. It's Thursday, November 14th, 2024. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your Cyberwire Intel Briefing. Thank you for joining us here once again. It is always great to have you with us. The U.S. government has confirmed a Chinese-linked hacking campaign breached several major U.S. telecom providers, giving hackers access to wiretap systems used by law enforcement. In a joint statement, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and the FBI called this breach broad and significant. Hackers reportedly accessed networks for months, collecting internet traffic and intercepting call records of targeted individuals, many of whom were involved in government or politics. According to reports, affected providers include AT&T, Lumen, and Verizon, though the agencies did not confirm specific names. The group, known as Salt Typhoon, allegedly copied data subject to U.S. court orders for wiretaps. While CISA and the FBI continue to provide technical support to affected organizations, they urge any companies that might suspect similar breaches to contact local FBI or CISA offices to help prevent further compromise and bolster cyber defenses. Yesterday, Ann Neuberger, White House cyber advisor, outlined top cybersecurity challenges facing the upcoming Trump administration, focusing on China, ransomware, and cryptocurrency. At Columbia University, Neuberger emphasized the escalation of China's cyber activities, including pre-positioning in critical U.S. infrastructure, potentially setting up future disruptions. She also addressed ransomware gangs, noting their significant disruption and reliance on cryptocurrencies, which facilitate ransom payments and fuel global cybercrime. Neuberger praised the Biden administration's cybersecurity strategy, including minimum cyber standards across industries like pipelines, railways, and aviation, achieved through collaboration with industry leaders. Now, 100% of critical pipelines meet TSA cybersecurity requirements. Cryptocurrency remains a contentious issue, funding rogue governments and ransomware attacks. Neuberger warned that the Trump administration must tackle crypto regulation, given its role in global cyber threats. She also noted the Supreme Court's Chevron decision could impact future cyber regulations. Despite political divides, cybersecurity remains largely bipartisan, allowing for a smoother policy transition. Jack Teixeira, a former Air National Guardsman, received a 15-year prison sentence for leaking classified U.S. military documents online. As an IT specialist at a Massachusetts base, Teixeira shared sensitive information on a Discord server focused on gaming and guns. The leaked documents, which eventually spread online, revealed U.S. and allied military activities, strategies in Ukraine, Middle East operations, and intelligence gathering methods. Teixeira initially memorized details, then escalated to printing classified documents to impress online friends. His actions, driven by ego rather than espionage, went undetected despite red flags until Discord provided his information to investigators. Following his arrest, the incident prompted disciplinary actions against 15 Air National Guard leaders and led the U.S. Air Force to tighten classified data access protocols. FBI Director Christopher Wray emphasized this case as a warning to those handling national defense information. Chinese national Darren Li faces up to 20 years in prison after pleading guilty to laundering over $73 million from pig butchering scams, a fraud involving relationship-based cryptocurrency schemes. Li, 41, led a money laundering network, creating 74 shell companies to funnel victims' funds, converting them into Tether for redistribution. Arrested in April, Li's case is part of a broader investigation into organized Southeast Asian criminal groups linked to rising U.S. crypto fraud, which totaled nearly $4 billion in 2023. Reportedly, popular pregnancy app What to Expect has serious unaddressed security vulnerabilities that could lead to full account takeovers, exposing sensitive reproductive health information. Security researcher Ovi Lieber revealed that an exposed API endpoint without authentication or rate limiting allows for easy brute force attacks on account password resets. The app also exposes email addresses of community forum administrators, increasing users' risk of targeted harassment. Despite efforts to notify What to Expect since October, Lieber received no response, raising ethical concerns about the company's commitment to user security. Lieber stresses that when app owners ignore responsible disclosure, researchers may need to alert users and the security community to ensure their protection. This follows Lieber's earlier report of a similar vulnerability in the fertility app Glow, which was later addressed. The developers of What to Expect have not yet commented. NIST announced it's working through a large backlog of over 18,000 vulnerabilities in the National Vulnerability Database, but missed its original goal of clearing it by September 30th. Despite hiring more analysts and addressing all known exploited vulnerabilities, NIST struggled due to incompatible data formats from authorized data providers. NIST is developing new systems to streamline data processing and pledged to provide updates on further progress, though it hasn't set a new deadline for clearing the entire backlog. A massive data leak of business contact information for 122 million people was confirmed to have originated from Demand Science, a B2B demand generation company. The data includes names, email addresses, phone numbers, job titles, and social media links aggregated from public sources and third parties. The dataset was first sold by the hacker Krypton Zambi in February of this year, who later made it available for free on a hacking forum. Demand Science initially denied any breach, but later acknowledged that the data came from a decommissioned system. Security researcher Troy Hunt verified the data's authenticity and added all affected email addresses to Have I Been Pwned, allowing impacted individuals to receive notifications. Demand Science maintains that none of its current systems were compromised, but continues monitoring the situation. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has issued an urgent warning to healthcare organizations about the Godzilla web shell, a Chinese-backed cyber tool that enables attackers to manipulate files, execute commands, and evade detection using advanced encryption. Publicly available on GitHub and actively maintained, Godzilla is a significant risk to healthcare systems, potentially leading to ransomware attacks that could compromise sensitive health data and disrupt hospital operations. The American Hospital Association emphasized the threat's severity, noting the high frequency of cyber attacks in the healthcare sector. HHS advises healthcare entities to adopt a multi-layered defense strategy, apply software updates, and review cybersecurity performance goals to bolster defenses. Although no direct cases have been reported yet, security officials stress that vigilance and proactive measures are essential. Moody's has assigned a very high cyber risk rating to the telecommunications, airline, and power generation sectors due to increasing digitization and weak cybersecurity practices. These industries collectively face $7.1 trillion in debt. Telecommunications, notably vulnerable, has seen major breaches, including attacks on AT&T, Lumen, and Verizon by China's Salt Typhoon Group. Airlines' cyber risk rose after a CrowdStrike software update failure exposed their reliance on tech. Other sectors, including automotive, education, manufacturing, energy, and ports, also saw risk levels increase to high. Coming up after the break, my conversation with Sarah Hutchins, partner at Parker Poe. We're speaking about the growing number of state data privacy laws. Stay with us. And now, a word from our sponsor, KnowBe4. It's all connected, and we're not talking conspiracy theories. When it comes to InfoSec tools, effective integrations can make or break your security stack. The same should be true for security awareness training. KnowBe4, provider of the world's largest library of security awareness training, provides a way to integrate your existing security stack tools to help you strengthen your organization's security culture. KnowBe4's Security Coach uses standard APIs to quickly and easily integrate with your existing security products from vendors like Microsoft, CrowdStrike, and Cisco, 35 vendor integrations and counting. Security Coach analyzes your security stack alerts to identify events related to any risky security behavior from your users. Use this information to set up real-time coaching campaigns targeting risky users based on those events from your network, endpoint, identity, or web security vendors. Then coach your users at the moment the risky behavior occurs, with contextual security tips delivered via Microsoft Teams, Slack, or email. Learn more at knowbe4.com/securitycoach. That's knowbe4.com/securitycoach. And we thank KnowBe4 for sponsoring our show. Imagine this. Your primary identity provider goes down, whether it's a cloud outage, network issue, or even a cyber attack. Suddenly, your business grinds to a halt. But what if it didn't have to? Meet Identity Continuity from Strata. the game-changing solution that keeps your business running smoothly no matter what. Whether your cloud IDP crashes or your on-prem system faces a hiccup, Identity Continuity seamlessly shifts authentication to a secondary or even tertiary IDP, automatically and without disruption. Powered by the Mavericks Identity Orchestration Platform, Identity Continuity uses smart health checks to monitor your IDP's availability and instantly activates failover strategies tailored to your needs. When the coast is clear, it's a seamless switch back. No more downtime, no lost revenue, no frustrated customers. Just continuous, secure access to your critical applications every single time. Protect your business from the high costs of IDP outages. With Identity Continuity from Strata, downtime is a thing of the past. Visit strata.io/cyberwire to learn how Strata's Identity Continuity can provide seamless enhanced capabilities to your existing identity fabric and receive a free set of AirPods Pro. Sarah Hutchins is a partner at the law firm Parker Poe. I recently spoke with her for the Caveat podcast about the growing number of state data privacy laws. From your position of expertise here, where do we find ourselves when it comes to the patchwork of state privacy laws?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. But I hate to disappoint, but I don't think you can call it level at all. We are not level setting. And I think the clients that I represent, companies sort of all over the country, are dealing with an environment that I would say is really in flux. There are some federal guidance that's available to especially certain industries or focused on certain categories of people. But in large part, we're dependent upon the states to give us regulatory guidance, at least, as to what is or is not okay with respect to individual data. And the challenge with that for a lot of companies is that while they may be in a certain state, their sort of digital presence is non-jurisdictional. They're all over. And the laws are at the state level are largely focused on where the individual lives. So companies find themselves subject to a whole host of different laws, some, I would say, comprehensive, like California, for example, and some that are maybe niche specific to them because they're in a certain industry or collecting on a certain type of person. And they have to balance that with all of the other types of laws that they are subject to in other states and at the federal level.
I'm curious, have you found there to be any situations where there are laws that are contradictory?
Oh, absolutely. Now, some of the state laws that we're seeing, and I would say we've got at this point, late October 2024, we've got about 19 state laws that have been enacted that I would sort of label as comprehensive. And there is some degree of guidance for each of these laws, although in some instances it's promised in future rulemaking as to preemption with other existing statutes, largely federal statutes. So, for example, financial data or data that's collected by an entity when they're offering credit to a consumer. In some instances, state laws will say that there's an entity level exception. So if you're subject to the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, because you're a financial institution, if it's an entity level exemption, then your entire entity is forgiven essentially from complying with the state law. But sometimes it's only a data specific exemption. And that would just be the certain data that you collect that's subject to that federal law is subject to one law. And then the rest of the data you have is subject to state laws relative to that specific person. And other times it's not specified yet. And you sort of have to try to comply with both. And they may, to your point, be in conflict. Another example would be employment information. There are lots of laws at the state and federal level that require long-term retention of certain types of employee documents and information, but other laws that are directing you to adhere to a really strict data hygiene, data minimization regimen. And those can also send conflicting messages to companies as well.
Hmm. Are there differences between the states in terms of how aggressive they are in pursuing these things?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we saw that too at the state data breach laws. There's all 50 states have a data breach law that's going to dictate certain steps a company needs to go through and certain ways that they need to hold some of their data. And you would see certain attorney generals be much more aggressive than other states when something like that happens to their constituents if they're subject to a breach. We're seeing the same thing with the focus that some states have on the laws that they are enacting. And some are going so far, we've got at least 3 that have created privacy offices, so to speak, that are solely focused and get additional resources to pursue adherence to their comprehensive data security, data privacy statutes. And that's important, especially for consumers, because the vast majority of these statutes do not have a private right of action. So the way that you get companies to adhere to it is through enforcement by the Attorney General's office and not necessarily through civil litigation.
How are you and your colleagues recommending that folks approach this patchwork of regulations here? I mean, how do you take a practical approach to this?
It's certainly difficult. And I think it's very important to have that be a continuous and constant element of a company's hygiene and governance process. It's not sort of a one and done. I think maybe the old adage is true that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Unfortunately, a lot of clients, because I'm a litigator, come to me with a renewed focus on compliance, sort of post-litigation, post-learning a rather expensive and difficult lesson. But if you can highlight compliance, and it's especially important, I think, for companies this time of year because it's usually budget season for the next year, you can hopefully make yourself unattractive to a regulator or unattractive to a plaintiff's attorney for different types of statutes that do have a private right of action related to data, to avoid that kind of litigation headache and frankly, financial loss. So working on really making sure all of your stakeholders are at the table. It's not enough to have the legal department or frankly, your outside attorney like me come in and draft a bunch of policies and procedures if they don't align with your actual practices. So making sure that marketing is at the table and HR and certainly your IT department, your information security professionals, and make it a holistic process. What kind of data do we have? How do we get it? What do we use it for? And how do we dispose of it and share it if we do? And with those policies and procedures, you can put into place the right processes, the right consents, and the right disclosures that really make your sort of outward-facing appearance show that you are in line with this myriad of statutes, but also internally, you will have processes in place to deal with the data that you have, to put in place appropriate hygiene, and in the event an incident occurs, you know what data you have and how you're going to respond.
You can listen to my full conversation with Sarah Hutchins from Parker Poe over on the Caveat podcast. You can find a link to that in our show notes. Quick question. Do your end users always, and I mean always without exception, work on company-owned devices and IT-approved apps? I didn't think so. So my next question is, how do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on all those unmanaged apps and devices? 1Password has an answer to this question: Extended Access Management. 1Password Extended Access Management helps you secure every sign-in for every app on every device because it solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM can't touch. And it's now available to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra and in beta for Google Workspace customers. Check it out at onepassword.com/cyberwire. That's onepassword.com/cyberwire. And finally, UK telecommunications provider Virgin O2 has a new anti-fraud team member. Daisy is a clever AI with the personality of a chatty grandma, designed to keep scammers busy with rambling conversations to waste their time. Officially dubbed Head of Scammer Relations, Daisy keeps fraudsters on the line with tales of family drama and knitting tips, all while helping real customers avoid being scammed. Let's have a listen.
I'm an AI created by O2 to waste phone scammers' time. So W's then a dot.
3 times W and then dot.
I think your profession is bothering people, right?
I'm just trying to have a little chat.
It's nearly been an hour! For the love of...
Gosh, how time flies.
Developed with help from YouTube's scam baiter Jim Browning, Daisy is part of O2's Swerve the Scammers initiative aimed at fighting the UK's fraud epidemic. While Daisy keeps scammers occupied, O2 is urging the public to report suspicious calls, helping them block and track fraudsters. Reality star Amy Hart, a scam survivor, has joined the campaign to help raise awareness. O2 is also calling for the government to tackle fraud more aggressively by appointing a fraud minister and creating a national body to combat scams. So, scammers, beware. Daisy's got all the time in the world, and she's more than willing to discuss her favorite fictional grandkids.
Because while they're busy talking to me, they can't be scamming you.
And that's the Cyberwire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to cyberwire@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K Cyberwire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your teams smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode was produced by Liz Stokes. Our mixer is Trey Hester, with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Eiben. Our executive editor is Brandon Karp. Simone Petrella is our president. Peter Kilpie is our publisher. And I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Now, a word from our sponsor. The Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute is currently seeking qualified applicants for its innovative Master of Science in Security Informatics degree program. Study alongside world-class interdisciplinary experts and gain unparalleled educational, research, and professional experience in information security and assurance. Interested U.S. citizens should consider the NSF's Scholarship for Service program or the DoD's Cyber Scholarship program. Both scholarships cover tuition, required fees, university-sponsored health insurance, and provide more than $30,000 in an additional annual stipend. Apply for these scholarships to start in the fall semester at cs.jhu.edu/MSSI.